Hello, friends. I'm Aurora Teves, and this is the Fans View podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fans View podcast. Today's guest is a professional wrestler from north of the border. You may know her as Kara Kai from WoW Women of Wrestling, or maybe if you're like an OG fan, you know her as Nessa Love. She didn't know I was going to drop that on her. But we here at the Fans View, we just know her as a badass from above the border. Easy for me to say. Please welcome on my guest guys today, Aurora Teves.
Look at you getting it.
If you guys knew how hard I was going to stumble over that. Aurora, first things first, how are you doing? I'm so excited that we could put this together.
You know what? I'm having a good old day. The sun is shining. I do have some lighting ready for when it inevitably goes down. But no complaints from this gal. We're having a good time.
I
Just
hear
like
you.
hot off the Maple Leaf wrestling weekend, so I'm still feeling the
Yes.
endorphins. We're
Love
good.
it. Love it. And you're the queen of segues. Look at you. I want to start off. It's super recent. We got to talk about it. How was your experience this weekend, returning back to Maple Leaf?
Honestly, Maple Leaf has been such a dream. Especially I wasn't really on the scene very long in Ontario before I ran off to the UK to try to own my craft. So being able to come back and be like a key player in the women's scene here just really solidified that yeah, you got this, little one. So then and then getting to wrestle Serena Deeb.
Yes.
I mean, spoiler, which isn't that much of a spoiler because it already happened. Um, I got bumped out of the tournament, but to go out anyway by Serena Deeb, I mean, I'll
Yes.
take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. So
We're going to take that rub because that was my next question. What's it like? Obviously, you've been in this business a couple years. I would say you're a veteran at this point, but what's it like working with someone as accomplished, a ring general almost in the women's division like Serena Deeb?
honestly, I think it's a statement that I'll kind of stick with, but typically the people that probably have they've done it all, they've have this list of accomplishments bigger than freaking Chris Jericho's list. Those are usually the kindest people. Like they have done enough in their lives that they probably could be justified in being a not nice person. And you'd
Yeah.
be like, you know what? It's all they've earned it.
Yeah.
But Serena Deeb has to be one of the most kindest individuals, but she's also not that kind of vet that's don't talk to me, don't tell me what you want to do in this match. It's it was such a collaborative experience, and she's I don't know, if there's a pedestal of individuals, I'm putting her on mine. Not only because I wrestled her, but she's legitimately so sweet.
I love that. And that's kind of the experience I've had from the outside looking in, kind of being around the business. It's the ones that, are accomplished like that have the best attitudes. And you have to wonder, is that kind of why they're in the position that they're in? Because they do have a good attitude?
Well, I like to think karma comes back around for everyone. So, I mean, especially in wrestling, the top, you're only ever at the top for so long.
Yep. Yep.
Even the tippity top of that, so I think if you burned a lot of bridges on your way up there, I mean, the descent probably is not going to feel too good.
It's gonna be a tough fall. It's gonna be a tough fall for sure. And that kind of brings me to my next question is when did you first fall in love with professional wrestling?
So I was definitely not a popular kid at school. I was the little emo kid that had pictures of wrestlers in her locker. But it started even prior to that. My dad watched wrestling growing up, and firmly remember memories of being very young, and my family being like, "Close your eyes," because something wild was happening on the TV, probably. not for
spoken like a true child of the '90s, of
yes,
the late
yes, like,
'90s.
what's going on? Um, but
That's
like I never
fantastic.
like so I wasn't the kind of family that was able to like go to the shows often or like watch a lot of pay-per-views back when they were like what, like $70 or something like that. Like they were
Yeah,
pricey.
yeah, yeah,
But like, Monday nights, that was like sacred TV time. And
yeah.
then all of my cousins loved wrestling. So even though my parents wouldn't buy me, they'd just get me Barbie dolls. I would take my Barbies on a date with my cousin's action figures. And it
Nice.
was Total Divas before Total Divas was a thing. So I just kind of always, it was always a part of my life. And everyone just thought I would outgrow that. I want to be a wrestler when I grow up. Because
Yeah,
they're like, well, that's not very feasible. That's not really a thing. Sure,
right.
live your best moments. So they let me just ramble about it for a while. But then eventually, once I started doing it, I was like, oh, I could actually probably do this. So, and then they all still kind of thought I was crazy until maybe like last year. Like,
And needless to say, you debuted in 2016, I believe. So you've got a couple years under your belt.
yeah, so to be fair, 2016, I think I think I had like my first training session in about something like 2016. I think my first actual match was about like a pro wrestling match was about 2017, 2018-ish, because Battle Arts did this lovely thing where it was like Battle Arts rules. So it was like a catch wrestling style of things. This gal didn't learn how to run the ropes or take a bump yet. So I like to put that disclaimer out there. I was Battle Arts really instilled for me not to start wrestling when I turned, 17 and showed up at their front doors. So they pushed me towards learning some martial arts to ground everything in. So I was doing kickboxing and submission wrestling classes with the other youngins. And then they were like, "Oh, do you want to come hang out on the show?" And I was like, "Yes."
I love the thought of just this nice little Canadian girl just out here kicking people's asses.
I did
Um
my best.
and still do. When did wrestling go from something, like you said, that you enjoyed, to something you're like, you know what? Like, I want to do this. Like, this is what I want to do with my life.
So I always like wanted to do it, and I always had this idea. I was like, "I'm gonna run away when I'm 18 to LA." But I always believed that I was meant to do something a little bit bigger than what was told to me as to be the norm and what I was meant to do. Um, but it wasn't really until I started at Battle Arts that I was like, okay, like this is starting to shtick and I'm getting some good feedback. And I'm not very good yet, but if I try really hard, I probably could be. Um, and I started working with Nichelle Laus, who was actually like my kickboxing instructor there. And prior
Hmm.
to that, I was like pick class and gym class. I was an asthmatic, like born 3 months early, underdeveloped left lung. Like this was not an athlete. I was an old school Portuguese family that's like basically like I made jokes that I was like an indoor cat. Like I wasn't allowed outside. You go to school, you come home, you go in the house. You're a girl.
And keep your inhaler on you at all times.
Yeah, basically. So I was not athletic by any means. And she was like the first person. So basically I would do kickboxing classes, but then in the summer, when a lot of people would not go to kickboxing class, I basically had a one-to-one with like a world-class personal trainer. So she taught me some foundation things and I will never forget the way it felt when she turned to me and she's like, "You're very athletic." And I was like, that was the first time I ever heard that. So I feel like that first moment of being told that I was athletic, combined with the fact that I was picking up stuff in kickboxing and submission wrestling with like Yuki Ishikawa was actually still teaching those classes as well. But like, I just felt like, yeah, maybe that whole thing that I told myself I could do, like I really could do it. So, yeah.
I love
Right,
that.
I have long-winded answers for things.
And I love it. I love it. This is your show. I'm just here to moderate a little bit.
Sounds
Um,
good.
Obviously, I was going to ask you where you trained, but that cat is out of the bag. You trained at the Battle Arts Academy. Is that in Toronto?
So
Toronto,
Mississauga,
Toronto,
yeah,
Toronto.
Toronto.
Ooh,
So it's Mississauga, so like just outside of Toronto. It's one of those places you can't tell where the lines blur and things end, but
I
eventually
got
you're
you.
in Mississauga.
I
Um,
got you.
and Santino Morella and Yuki Ishikawa were my trainers, so it was a good time.
What and a little editor's note. I want you to know how many times I practiced saying Toronto the correct way and Saskatchewan the correct way before this interview, and then I just, uh,
Yeah, what? You did
right,
well. You did
I
well.
dribbled. Anyway, what led you to Battle Arts specifically? Obviously, Santino was a pretty big name at that time. Did he have something to do with that?
So I was like I'm a plan it out kind of gal. But unfortunately, I didn't realize that the logistics don't always end up with like reality. 12-year
Yeah.
old me would have been a bit disappointed with that. But basically, I was sitting in my grade 12 business class, should have been doing work, but computers. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so I need to start wrestling training at 18, go to university, finish. By the time I'm graduated, 21, so I should be like signed by like 23, Had that whole thing that was like,
I
yeah,
love
that's
this.
reasonable. So I'm like, hey, Google must be able to find a wrestling gym. Turns out the one that I had been looking at previously was now closed. I believe it was Squared Circle at the time. So I was like, huh, where am I going to go? And then just turns out that just like the month before that, Battle Arts opened in Mississauga. So I had no idea prior to that moment. So then I was like, well, I can't just walk into a wrestling gym. So I turned to my friend, also named Vanessa, sitting next to me, and I was like, oh, hey, do you want to go to this women's kickboxing class? Dragged her with me. And then this was my first full marked out experience. I get to Battle Arts, I just stare at Santino, but he wasn't Santino, he was Anthony Corelli
Yeah.
giving a tour of this establishment, and I'm just staring at him and he's looking back at me, and I'm just like this random child that showed up for a kickboxing class that day. And he just looks at me and he's like, "Are you a wrestling fan?" I was like, he's like, "Are you here for a class?" I'm like, nice to meet you, big fan. And I just go over to the class, and that was the first time I met Anthony.
I love that. I can just in my head I see Santina Morella with the Cobra just showing you room to room,
I
where
think
the
I was like
mats are.
still confused that he didn't have a
The
Italian
accent.
accent.
Yeah. That Super Mario accent. The
Who is
most
speaking to me, and why doesn't he have a unibrow? Like, I've seen this man, but I've never seen this man all at once. So,
My god, I love that so much. Um through your time at Battle Arts, how do you feel like you were well prepared when they kind of push you out into the world, for that first match? Did you feel like all right, I can do this, or were you just a deer in the headlights?
so Battle Arts was really great. So there's like pros and cons to things because there are some people that I wrestled Zeta Steel recently, the sweetest nugget I've ever met. And this gal's like, yeah, only been wrestling for 2 years. She's like, but I've learned mostly like got thrusted into it and has been learning on the road. And I'm like, that is super freaking cool. But I'm like, the way I almost had like a bit more of like a sheltered kind of
Yeah.
upbringing with it in my little wrestling world, whereas Battle Arts had student shows. And because the facility very much had like bleachers and lights and like Anthony went all out that it could be a total great dojo, and then you can also convert it into like massive shows. Like Impact has filmed there at the Don Koloff
Right.
Arena. We had the Battle Arts Pro shows there. Like we've had big Destiny shows, so it's like we can put a whole production there. So we would my first Battle Arts student show match. I mean, the first three were probably they were just like battle arts style matches, so it was just a lot of
Hmm.
grappling. So I felt pretty prepared for that.
Right.
The first time I was out on the independent scene, I still felt pretty well taken care of. I felt like I was given like a good foundation of things. I think it was Anthony always really solidified it for us, and he's like, "You're not. If you really want to do this, you need to leave." And he
Yeah.
would say this while we're all sitting on the bleachers, and we're like, in one hand, it's kind of weird because like, why is your coach telling you to like stop
Get
paying
out of
him
here.
and
Yeah.
get out? Like,
Yeah.
but he meant it from the best piece of advice. He's like, look, if I didn't leave my home and get uncomfortable, like
Yeah.
you, you're not really gonna figure out who you are in terms of everything until you do that. So I think the first time when I was outside of battle arts and I was outside of like that little group of friends that I had made in it, and we'd carpool together and we'd go to all these shows together, and you have that nice little support. That first time I was really on my own in the UK,
Yeah,
I feel like that was the first time that I was like, am I prepared for things? But I will say the fact that he really did take care as a coach to make sure I gained some foundational skills. As frustrating as that felt as like a little baby wrestler kid, being like, I want to learn all the cool moves. It gave me something that in the long run can make me stand out more than if I could just do just the cool moves. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
For sure. Can you recall that first match? Like that first, I don't want to say your very first match, but maybe that first pro wrestling match outside of the bubble, like the first time you were tested. Can you think back to that match and talk about it?
I think the first times outside of like my little student matches that I really can think back would have been Alexia Nicole is probably
Mm-hmm.
one of the people that like I can actually look eye to eye with, but completely look up to in wrestling. She was at a time when people were a bit like, man, this is my spot in the
Yeah.
independent wrestling scene. And for a gal that's like roughly around the same height, I don't know, people could be productive about that stuff. Like she took me under her wing and brought me to different shows and like, but I wrestled her. It was for a promotion crossbody. I think Kitchener, my geography bad. It was a while back, but a good old time. And it was the first time that I felt like, oh, someone else thinks I can really do this. And it's not like she trained with me or had any kind of
There's
reason
no
to like
bias.
sugarcoat
Yeah.
it or bias. And I still remember we had like a double down in that match that is still to this day one of my favorite double downs ever. And it was like a double kick to the head, and it was perfect. And I remember just laying there being like, wow, that was fun. And then funny, just I think maybe not last summer, but relatively recently, we were both booked on a show in Barcelona. Shout out to RCW because I love them. Um, and it was so cool because she was like, "You've come so far," and it just felt so good to have like that moment in retrospect with
Yeah.
like new
Yeah.
new me because I was still
Yeah.
Nessa Love back then.
Nessa Love. That we're gonna talk about that name at some point because that's something there. That is something.
I
Um, what would you consider maybe to be the hardest obstacle that you've had to face so far in your career?
think I'm not the best at advocating for myself. So there
Mm,
are a lot of people that have really larger than life personalities and they can bring um like still like a level of kindness to it, but they're like straight up like no, that I wouldn't do that. Like no, like they put themselves in like they hold themselves very like highly,
mm-hmm.
not in a bad way by any means.
Yeah.
But like and they can no, my character wouldn't do that or I don't want to I don't know, people just can advocate for themselves and they have this full self of self-belief. I can be a silly little goose every now and again, and my inner saboteur, like she can be sassy sometimes, and she could be louder than like the little like cheerleader on the other side. Um, so I think that for me, I can't speak on behalf of anyone else, but my biggest obstacle in wrestling has been myself.
So maybe like standing up for
Yeah.
yourself.
Like even standing up for myself, believing that I'm absolutely 100% in the right place.
Right. Like you
I feel
belong
like I've
there.
like climbed over those obstacles now because
Mm-hmm.
I have the evidence to show myself of no, this isn't just like a thought anymore.
Right.
Because you never want to be the Delulu, you know?
Yes. Yes. Because you never know you're the Delulu one
Yeah,
until you real.
I feel like I almost was like so scared of being Delulu that I went all the way to the other side where it's like still kind of Delulu, but in a self-deprecating kind of way,
Just the
rather than
opposite end of the spectrum.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to work through that. That took effort, but that was probably my biggest obstacle.
Do you think that's kind of maybe shaped you as a performer? Is that fact that it wasn't maybe of your nature to kind of stand up for yourself? It's kind of a skill that you've had to develop over the years. Do you think that's improved you maybe as a person and a performer?
Absolutely. I think like one of my things is like don't take someone's kindness as weakness because I
Yes.
know that I'm not a like I'm an extremely resilient individual and I know that like I'm like I have full confidence in my abilities and in like the work ethic that I have. But sometimes can I put my little mousy voice on? Yeah. But have I had to learn to be like no, stand up for myself, but also from working with some strong women around me, I've also learned how to advocate for people that feel like they're not in a position to speak up for themselves yet.
Yeah, I love that.
So I
I love
think
that.
that's almost like when I started getting to a slightly more positioned of, not in a way that like I don't consider myself a vet by any means,
Yeah.
like, but seeing like the youngins coming into locker rooms and remembering how I felt then. And I was like, girl, I will advocate for you. Like, we've got this. Like there was one time it was somewhere, and a promoter was trying to get another girl that was working in this triple threat to work for free. And I was like, but I'm getting paid in the match.
Right.
She's also in the match. So so I can understand people having different rates, but you can't not pay her
And
her
just
rate.
not pay
Yeah,
somebody.
you can't.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, well, she's newer." I'm like, "But like, if you want me to wrestle in this match and you want her to wrestle in this match, then I can't get in there knowing." And she was really sweet about it, and she was like, "Oh no, it's okay." And I was like, "No, like we're protesting this. No."
Yeah. Wow. That is. Did she get paid?
Yeah,
Hey, look. There we go. There
yeah.
we go.
So that's why I was like, "No, girl, we're gonna be fine."
God, promote. I'm sure we could have a whole nother podcast of shady promoters and their nice little
Yeah,
gimmicks.
but
um,
yeah, so it's like that poor gal. Like, would I have said anything back in the day? Probably
right.
not. Would have sat
Right.
there and then gone home and been like, "Mom, I have no gas money."
No money.
Like, if I was a little youngin and I went there and I didn't know that, no, I probably wouldn't have said anything.
Right.
But I was like, "I got you, gal."
I love that you're self aware enough to know like that was me a couple years ago, and you don't just let it slide. I mean that's very commendable. I love that.
Thanks. I think that's one thing in wrestling, but also in life. It's like we can't, and especially as women, we can't
Hmm.
necessarily control what other people are going to do, but I feel like I can at least control the environment I create and making other people feel like they're in a safe enough space or supported enough to like bounce decisions off someone or like have different conversations, or rather than just keeping all those little thoughts in there. And then I
Yeah,
don't know, if you're a little, what 18-year-old makes good decisions? Like, like,
that's
especially if it's like back against the wall in a new environment, like no
yeah.
one to bounce things off of, or if you
Yeah.
don't feel like you can.
Yeah,
So
you're trying to succeed and break into this business and chase that dream. You don't want to rock the boat. I definitely could see how these promoters, man or woman, could be taking advantage of these people.
I'm an older sister. My baby sister is 9 years younger than me. She's not a baby by any means anymore. But in my head, she's like 6. So I like to tell everyone, I'm like, I'm a professional older sister. So take care of my youngins.
There's nothing wrong with that. How hard is it? I talked about what's your hardest obstacle to face, and I feel like this is an obstacle that kind of everybody in the business faces. It's that balance. It's the balance between being a professional wrestler, maintaining a relationship. I know you were recently engaged. Congratulations. Um, you know, a lot of people on the independent circuit are working that shoot job, that 9 to 5 real job. You're wrestling on the weekends, you're training, you're taking care of fur babies sometimes. How hard is it to find that balance between wrestling and everything else?
I'd be lying if I sat here and was like, I found balance. It's so great. I do this and this. Honestly, I feel like I could probably benefit from some balance, but it's mainly just go, go, go,
Yeah,
go, go. I'm
yeah.
like, I'll sleep one day, it'll be fine. Um, I try to keep Sundays as my day of like, I'm not allowed scheduling anything on that, but at the same time, if something comes up on it, I mean, I'm not gonna say no. So,
Right.
um, and I, besides, all of the full-on responsibilities, I decided, 3 big old doggos. That's how I'm gonna live my best life. And to be fair, they replenish my energy levels more than they actually take from them. So,
Yeah.
but they
As
do
long as you're
keep me
past that
awake.
puppy stage, we're good.
Oh yeah, so that's what I tell everyone. They're like, "Oh, 3 dogs. How'd you do that?" And I'm like, if you put like good effort in the first year,
Yeah. Pays
smooth sailing
dividends.
after that. And then I
It
was like,
pays dividends.
and I did real well with like Freya, my middle dog. She's the kind of dog that makes you forget that like puppies are hard work. But she basically just helped teach the third puppy after. So I was like, look, it's like she's she's like me and dog, like a perfect older sister. Perfect.
Um, to kind
Yeah,
of
in
steer it.
short, there's no balance. There's just go. There's just go.
And
And then
that's,
you
yeah,
make a list and you prioritize the things that have to get done versus the things that you would like to get done versus the
things that
text
you're writing
messages
there that you
and
know
replying
aren't
to
gonna get done.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I feel like there's like a triage of my life systems. And it's kind of a little bit like Canadian healthcare. You're really grateful for it, but sometimes you're like, well, I'm not, completely falling apart, so I don't fall up here. So if I'm like at the 8-hour zone of in
Okay,
the
fair
waiting room
enough.
down there.
You're just a dumpster fire that's under control right now.
Like organized chaos.
I was just about to say
That's how I
controlled
explain it.
chaos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I know
Hey,
where everything is. Just don't try to find anything on my desk. Don't.
oh, you
I
are a
know where it
professional.
is.
You are a professional wrestler. um, and speaking of being a professional wrestler, who are some of your favorite competitors to share a ring with?
Ooh. Okay, so like obviously I'd have to put like Mickey James and Serena Deeb in like a
Oh yeah,
different
they get on
category.
the they're up on the
They're
pedestal. Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Um, but honestly, I think my little like one of my just the people that like you just gel so instantly well with is my gal Harley Hudson in the UK. She is just a pink ball of tan abs and loveliness. Um, she is I've decided she's my little baby wrestling sister. She's about like the same age as my siblings, so it's like yeah, you're but we've just like I feel like wrestled each other so many times and in like great scenarios and in crap scenarios. And I feel like no matter what, we know that like we will have such a good match and her moveset flows into my moveset and it's like butter on toast. So it's good.
I love
Yeah.
that.
But she's one of my favorite people to work with. So
Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna give you this one.
Hey, you. Yeah, watching this right now. I see you. If you're enjoying what you're watching, I've got one quick favor to ask, and it only takes a second, costs you nothing, and makes a huge difference. If you could go ahead and hit that like button, maybe drop a comment. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Doesn't seem like much, but for small creators, it's everything. So let's help more people find this channel and keep the content coming. And honestly, I'm pretty sure the podcast will be really grateful. So if you're having fun, you like what you see, make it official, click those buttons, and the Fans View podcast will see you next time. Bye, friends.
Who's your dream opponent? Any company, any era, not Trish Stratus, because it's too easy.
See, I think this is so hard because then I'm like I'm a Libra. I'm indecisive. It's so hard for me to pick one. I have like a top five of my number ones of
a
things.
fatal four way. A fatal four way match of dream opponents. You're one of them, obviously. Can you give me three?
Okay, I actually hate fatal four ways, so I'm gonna give you just three people that would be
Okay.
my number one. Maurice, because I feel like people don't put enough respect on Maurice's name, and
Talk about it.
he was a wicked mean heel, and
Talk
I
about it.
I think she would be able to, give me a hair bump for my life. So I feel like I need some Maurice in my life. Um, oh, this is so tricky because I love so many peeps. Um, Molly Holly, because like
Okay.
the woman could do literally everything.
I
She could play
love that.
anyone. Like, is she Hurricane Molly? Like, like which
Yeah.
Molly am I getting? I don't know,
Yeah.
but and then right now, I feel like, who doesn't want to get beat up by Rhea Ripley right now?
That's fair.
You
That's
know?
fair. I
Like,
like
it's
that.
like, gal, show me, please, how much do you bench? Like, give me your secrets. Like, bench me, it'll be fun. Like,
I love that. Let's book it. Let's get it going.
right?
I love that you said Maurice. It's funny you said that because I actually had Shay Carmichael on here the other day. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she was talking about how Maurice is somebody that inspired her. And you kind of hit it. It's like people do not put enough respect on Maurice's name. I think she gets penalized for that era of wrestling that she came up in. But like you said, she was a nasty heel. She can do the comedy with Miz. She does Ms. and Mrs. Like She is one of the most well-rounded performers I think that WWE has really ever had.
And like honestly, even like I'm the number one defender of a Divas era. I would not have fit in the Divas era whatsoever. I'm 5 foot nothing. Like there was like Layla was considered like short, and they made like like wide jokes about her not being that slim. Like she's taller than me. I had no hope, but like they within like with 5 minute segments, they had a full match, great psychology, and they had to do it in like let's face it, some tiny off that was a lot of double sided tape, doing a lot of darn work. But these girls had what 5 minutes to make something happen, and then
Yeah.
like Michelle McCool and Maurice had like a killer rivalry. Melina was out there freaking, she was doing her splits, but then she was also getting like freaking bent in half. I was like, put some respect on these women's names because they
Get
didn't
it.
get to like have a banger in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They had to make
Absolutely.
stuff happen on TV in a very short amount of time, and there was like no NXT for people to develop. Some
Yes.
like Maurice was a. I mean, I don't know all of the ins and outs of. I'm making some assumptions of the fact that she, for the most part, had to learn on the go.
Yeah. I think she's talked about that. Yeah, she was a
Yeah,
model. They
yeah.
plucked her. Yeah, they plucked her
And
out
felt
of
like
the
they could
magazine.
put you in like a nice like developmental center for you to learn for a little bit, make all your mistakes in front of your, at your student shows and have that
Yep.
fun stuff. They're like, no,
No, we're just gonna throw you in a bathtub and put you on TV.
yeah.
That's how we're
So,
gonna. That's how we're gonna break Maurice in.
but she smashed it, and I love Maurice. So,
I do love that answer because, like I said, Maurice is a personal favorite of mine, and you're not the first woman
got a
in the
little heat
past
of
couple
you.
weeks. Yeah, I like it. We're getting hot about Maurice over here, and not even in the way most people would.
No, no. I mean, I had a picture of her and Kelly from the WWE like magazine because I had my subscription. I was ready to go. That was like around the time like Maurice, Kelly, Melina, that I was like, I had some expendable income, doing my little grocery store job. So then I was like, ooh, WWE subscription. This is amazing. Sit there reading my magazine at the lunch hour. Didn't make me very
Oh,
popular. But I had
man.
pictures of like Maurice and Kelly on my wall, and I thought limb lengthening surgery would help me. That was illegal. It wasn't even at the, and then I broke my leg, and then I was like, no, we're not doing that.
At least that was the surgery that you were considering, because at that period in wrestling, you could have went a lot of different ways. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Honestly, I was like, nah, I'm Portuguese. Hopefully everything else will even out. But like, it was the legs. I was like, there's no hope in the legs. I'm taller than my mom. Like,
Oh,
yeah. So
oh my god! I have a Portuguese uncle, so I know what you're. I know your pain.
we're a short, compact group of people.
Stout, yes,
Yeah.
stout is the word that comes to mind. Um, I don't even know how I follow
A
that.
little teapot.
I'm not sure how I'm supposed to follow that. Um, Digging back into kind of what you're doing now. Obviously, you're working at places like Maple Leaf Pro as Aurora Teves. But when you're out in California with WoW, you're Karakai. And I think that probably leans more on, like you said, your battle arts, kickboxing background. How different is it working for a company like WoW, who relies so heavily and not to be disrespectful or anything, but they rely a lot on gimmicks and over the top presentation, as opposed to like Maple Leaf Pro and other indies that are more realistic, kind of hard hitting type styles. Um, how do you feel when you have to like swap between those styles? Do you enjoy both of them?
I do enjoy both of them. And I think one of the best things about being trained by someone like Santino Morella is he is a perfect example that he was like on the national judo team. Like the man trained in martial arts for
Yeah.
majority of his existence. Even in OVW, his entire gimmick was like very much a bruiser. When push came to shove and it's like, hey, can you do this? The man was like, yes. And he's probably now known as, I'd say, probably one of the funniest people to ever do wrestling. Like
Yes.
one of the best comedy, like comedic wrestlers ever.
Yes.
But he also can go. Like, so
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that I think in recent time people have strayed away from character, which
Yes.
is totally cool. Like there's a difference in it. But I think there's something really great about being able to strip it back and do something like WoW. I think
Hmm.
for me, it was a really great opportunity to focus on TV matches,
Hmm.
psychology of like just, hey, let's take out all the really cool false finishes for a sec and just like, how can we tell a story that if someone did not watch wrestling a day in their lives, that they could kind of still like just get to it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it is for like a little bit of a less sophisticated wrestling crowd that's going like in terms of like the viewership of
Right.
what's going to I don't know, like we're not doing the same things that
Right.
AEW is doing, you know, or
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
WWE. It's completely different, but it's so the same in terms of the foundation is there. And then I think it's great because we get to work with. There's a bunch of super established wrestlers, like we have Santana Garrett and Holodead, and like then we also have nice little gals that you have never seen in the wrestling world because they were dancers or actresses and getting to really throw them into a character. I've never sat there and watched top to bottom like an entire because we film like an entire season in a month. So our
Right.
filming days are very long. And
Right.
everyone is sitting around the TV just watching the matches because they're genuinely entertaining.
Yeah.
There's
For sure.
no there's not they're not long enough to even have a fallout period of like not being interested. Like you're involved for the entire time and you're like, that girl is, literally a cat. Like Katarina Jinx. Like, oh, her moveset actually reflects this. This is hilarious. I love this. Then you have like Xena Phoenix, who's
Hmm.
like shoot does Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and brought that in and her arm drags are crisp and beautiful, but she fights like that character would.
Right. Right.
So it's like it's fun and it's
Absolutely.
different.
For people that don't know, might not know, and I can't imagine many people don't, but WoW is obviously studio wrestling, just TV based. There's not really like live events or anything like that. You guys don't go on the road. It's just studio wrestling that you kind of batch shoot for TV.
Yep.
Um,
We did
and,
actually have one Vegas show that we did a Las Vegas
yep.
takeover on Fremont Street, so that was
Yes.
fun.
That I wanted to ask you about too. That seemed like it was pretty cool.
That was probably one of the coolest things. Like legitimately there was like signs of us everywhere in like I had never been to Vegas before this, so I didn't realize that like when we'd on Fremont Street when you look up it's all like
Hmm.
LED screen
Yep.
thingies, and it's like
Yep.
you would just see like wow, women of wrestling, and then it was like people are zip lining, and I'm like, look, that's us right there. Like it was really cool. So to have
Absolutely.
it, and we had like security escorting us because wrestling outfits, getting to the stage. So
Well, I mean, it's Vegas though. You probably
yeah,
could have just walked down the street in your gear and nobody would have
honestly,
blinked an
that
eye.
like I'm pretty sure we should have probably had like a wedding or something, like a wedding episode
Yeah.
fit in, but because we were quite near the Graceland
Hmm.
chapel, so surprised we didn't. Would have been good. Would have been good.
I
What's
love that.
festive about a wedding?
Yeah. Who doesn't love a wrestling wedding? I'm telling
Right?
you. And I love your summation of WoW because it's like, where else can you get a kickboxer, a spring breaker? We all know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Santana Garrett. Like the quality of wrestling isn't diminished, and I didn't want it to come off that way. It's just different. It's definitely different than what most wrestling today is. Because, like you said, we don't lean on gimmicks and stuff as much as maybe we used to back in the '90s.
Well, I think that's like something that even myself, if you were to go up to someone at any kind of indie show at the moment and be like, "Tell me about your gimmick in 5 words," they'd probably have a real hard time doing it. You know.
Yes.
But if you go
Yes.
to WoW's locker room and you're like, "Tell me about your gimmick," they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And even for myself, as like a baby face, sometimes I would feel more natural in a heel role because it's not like me as a person. So there
Right.
was less vulnerability to it
Yeah. Yeah.
because I felt like I was putting on a character. So with WoW, it's a lot easier to get out of my own head
Hmm.
and stop thinking of like, oh, but Vanessa, but Aurora, but Vanessa, but Aurora. Vanessa's my name in case anyone didn't know. It's so simple. I know how she interacts with her tag partner. I know what her background was. Like it's simple
Yeah.
and it's nice. And I'm like finding recently since that I've been able to kind of bring that a little bit more towards Aurora, but even
Hmm.
she's a bit, you know, she's a bit organized chaos.
I love that. You really are the segue queen because you literally just read my mind. You're behind the curtain, the music's about to hit. What is the difference in mindset between Kara about to go through that curtain and Aurora about to go through that curtain? Or is there a different mindset?
I think the same foundation of, so with WoW, Karakai, based a little bit off Cobra Kai, and I said it
No.
in like, right, a promo where it's like fight for honor and fight with respect. And that is something that is linked to the vulnerability of myself. Like, I've always wanted to, I go out of my way to make sure I am like that, the nice person and a good person, and that if I end up being going down as, oh well, she never really was the best wrestler or the best this or the best that, I'm like, if you can turn around and say I was really nice in the locker room and I made you feel welcome, then I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm like, I'm leading forth with that, and I think in both cases there's that kindness, but also it's rooted in I can shoot kick your butt. So it's like I don't need, oh look, I'm giving myself a thumbs up. But see, it's
I
like,
love that.
yeah, and it was the wrestling greatness
That's
there.
what it was. That's what it was.
But yeah, I think it's just being able to root. I have a shoot background. It was slightly forced upon me. I didn't see the blessings. It was like, Mr. Miyagi, you know? But I don't want to do that. I want to jump off the top rope now, Santino, and being like, chill, go kick something for a while and then come back. And I think I bring that forth in both characters. But Aurora likes to have a little bit more fun and wear a bit better outfits. So yeah, but they both bring a little trouble to it. They're both a little fun, but they both are rooted in, you know,
Yeah.
in the right way.
I love that. I love that. I think Kara's outfit is just fine too, for the record.
All right, it's all right. I keep getting like, yo, wow, let's fix that outfit. It is cute. It is cute. But I'm like, can I have a little sparkle? A little something, something?
Let's bedazzle it a little bit, just a
Right?
little. Uh,
I'll sequin it myself. He'll be fine.
what what is your relationship? We've brought him up a couple times. What's your relationship with Anthony now, with Santino? Do you have a relationship still?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's one of those things. Uh, Anthony and Serena Deeb were actually like quite close, good old OVW buddies. So it was
Mm-hmm.
one of those things when I found out that I was wrestling Serena Deeb. One of the first things I did was like, "Hey, coach, look," and sent him the graphic right away. And it actually ended up we wrestled on his birthday. So I was like, "Look, it's a gift from the wrestling gods." Look at that full circle moment
I
where it's
love
like,
that.
um, it's not like one of those relationships where I'm like he's not even really as involved in battle arts at the moment because he's doing
With
some cool stuff
TNA.
with
Yeah.
TNA and everything at the moment. But it's one of those things that I know that like he has my back if I need it. And every time I see him, he'll be like, "Oh, my little world traveler." So I'm like, I'm one of the kids, you know.
That's right.
So it's like nice to know that I have the blessing, and
An-
if like I can send things to him, and he'll take a look at them, and he's always like encouraging, and so he's pretty cool.
Another perfect segue. Another perfect. You're one of the kids. So when do we book Ariana Grace versus Aurora? When are we going to get that match?
Well, actually, well, I guess she was still Bianca Corelli back in the day, but I won the first ever Battle Arts Women's Championship in a match against the Battle Arts princess herself, you know,
There it is. There it
Bianca
is.
Corelli. But oh, I miss Miss Ariana Grace so much. So it would be super cool to be able to just seeing like where we were then. Like if we could have a side by
Yeah.
side of like both matches going,
Yeah.
that'd be super cool. She's
I love.
someone that even back in the day on student shows, this girl, we'd look back at like match photos and we were way too blessed to be in the like so Andrea Calloway is one of the best wrestling photographers around ever. And she was, a friend of Battle Arts and Anthony's, so she was way too high quality to be helping us at a student show. But she made us look like superstars. So thanks, Andrea Calloway. Some respect on your name. She's with NXT, making
Okay.
all those peeps look beautiful as if they need it. But basically, back to the OG story. Bianca Corelli, I'm sitting there getting folded in half, looking like a little goblin in this photo. And Bianca's like, huh. Oh, like, the gimmick is real.
Working the
Gal
gimmick.
is a beauty queen, like,
I was just about to
so
say.
I'd love to see. I think I learned to find the cameras a little bit. Took me a bit longer than Miss Bianca, but
I
yeah,
love
so
that.
I'd love to
This
see.
this is a
Yeah.
very pro Bianca podcast, so I had to shoehorn her in there somewhere.
She's honestly, she's like super cool, but like super freaking funny. Like
Yes.
I don't know, like the
It's
charisma
not
apple
it's
is
not fair. Yeah.
it didn't even fall out of the tree. The tree just like duplicated.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm living for the fact that now, WWE and TNA are kind of, holding
Yes.
hands for the main reason that I get to see like Santino and Bianca, or sorry, Ariana in the same thing.
Yeah. And they're gold together. They are so
Yeah.
good together.
So it's
Um
so cool.
so you are my first Canadian wrestler on the podcast. So I
Oh,
couldn't wait to just Canada out on you. I want to go through, we'll do it quickly because I know you're a busy lady, but I want to go through the provinces and I want to see if you can name me a wrestler from every province.
I don't think I can. I'm bad at geography. I'm very bad at geography.
Well, at least the big ones, because Prince Edward Island, I couldn't find anything. New, I'm gonna butcher it.
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland,
You
yeah,
can say Newfoundland, but I think at least my Ontarionians, I don't know what we are. We say Newfoundland. Sl-
okay.
Fast it up and slow it down all at the same time.
I practiced all my practice went to Saskatchewan, so that's all I have for you. Um, Maybe I'll give you the big ones, and you just tell me the first pro wrestler that comes to your mind from that
I just
province.
got Calgary and Ontario. That's it.
I know I wanted to. I have faith in you that you could give me somebody from Alberta.
But that Calgary is in Alberta. That's it. That's
That's
all I
right.
got.
That's right. Duh.
Yeah. I was like, who's
British.
in Vancouver? I'm like,
Who is? Oh,
oh,
come on,
Chelsea
Vancouver's.
Green's from
That.
Vancouver.
Look at you. See, you had no faith in yourself. British Columbia. You already. Chelsea, Alberta. Who's the first one that comes to mind
I
from
mean,
Alberta?
all of the hearts. We have just can't don't want to leave anyone out.
That's
Got Jinder Mahal's in there.
look
Who
at you.
else? It's got a lot of people from Calgary.
Look at you, Saskatchewan.
I'm trying to think of who's in Saskatchewan.
There's a Hall of Famer who you don't really necessarily think of as a Canadian. That's not with us anymore.
He's from Saskatchewan.
He is originally. I think he spent most of his life in Oregon.
Well, that's not fair.
He wore a kilt. He has a
Was
daughter in the
Piper
business.
Piper Piper?
Piper's
He's
from
from Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan.
Go
Yeah.
Canada.
And we
Gotta
would have
move it.
accepted Brock as well because he is now a
He lives
resident
there now, but I was like,
of
but he's not like. Well, he would. I don't know. I guess maybe he has Canadian citizenship. I don't know.
apparently, yeah, he was born and raised in Saskatchewan. I didn't know it either. There's another one on here I didn't know.
I thought Chris Jericho was Canadian for the longest time, and then I tried to do my grade 10 project. It turns out he was not from Canada. He was
Yeah, he's one of
born
those.
in New York, but
Yeah.
because he was raised mostly in Canada, I was able to do my grade 10 project on him. So
See, I was gonna give you him from Manitoba,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you've got the Kenny Omega from Manitoba as well. Obviously,
yeah.
Ontario, everybody's gonna say Trish. Quebec, I'm sure you can name somebody from Quebec. Yeah, yeah. Look at you. See,
Yeah, I
you
got
have
Ontario and I had Calgary.
okay,
I was ready for those two.
okay. Quebec. Come on, I have so
Yeah.
much
Oh,
faith in you right
Kevin
now.
Owens. Kevin
There
Owens.
you
There
go.
you
There
go.
you go. There you go.
Maurice. Oh my goodness.
Ah, got you there, Miss Canadian. Did you know that Maurice was not born in Montreal?
No, I didn't know that.
She was born in, I don't know what the city was, but she was born in New Brunswick. Didn't know that. Yeah. She
You
grew
learn
up
something new every day.
she grew up in Montreal.
I was gonna say that beautiful French. I mean, that's
Yeah. And then the last one I had something for was Nova Scotia. And I have one that I could throw at you.
I'll take it.
Rocky Johnson. Did you know he was Canadian?
He's from Nova Scotia?
The Rock's daddy was Canadian. Yep.
I did know The Rock's dad was Canadian because The Rock's uncle is quite well known in the Ontario space. Would have never guessed Nova
Yep.
Scotia, though.
Nova
Yeah,
Scotia.
yeah.
I want you to know, like, I was so excited to have you on that I just went like Canada crazy. I'm like Googling poutine. I'm just Tim
Poutine,
Hortons. I'm trying to
there's
hit you with all the references. I put a lot of work into this episode, so much more than it was necessary.
and then I just rambled the whole time, my bad. Like,
Oh no, this has been so much fun.
honestly, it's
Um,
been like my first year back in Canada after being in the UK for almost like close to 5 years. It was like 4.5, something like that.
wow.
I missed a roll up the rim. So Tim Hortons here, we do like this stupid contest every year that makes you buy way more coffee than you need. It's like every coffee cup comes with like when you finish it, you like roll up the rim and it's like, please play again. Or like you want a car, but no one wins a car. Apparently someone wins a car every year. It's not me.
Never you.
I get like two free coffees, a donut, and then a million please plays agains.
Fair
So
enough.
yeah, but it was nothing felt more like, oh, I'm home than roll up the rim. So yeah.
Bet. Um, so here on the fans view, we have a little segment I like to call the fans eye view, where I just throw a picture at you and you give me just a short little story about it or whatever comes to mind. Um, yours I'm particularly excited about because I feel like you're going to have some good stories for us.
Oh,
So
don't set me up too much.
let let me throw the first one at you. This one's pretty easy.
Oh my goodness. So Mick James. And this is so I wrestled the lovely Mickey in the south of France. So I mean, like I got flown to the south of France where it's nice and warm and beautiful. And then it was in like this like bowl arena thing. So it's outside in this beautiful sun, not a cloud in the sky. And then in walks the most majestic Mickey James. And I was like, oh. And the first thing I do is like, Vanessa, don't be weird. Don't be weird. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm a big fan. And I was like, well, that started well. But it was such a fun match for me. And it was one of my first times like being a heel, especially with someone that's freaking Mickey James. So, and all I can think is looking at this picture is standing in the ring as Mickey James does her entrance and being like, don't smile.
I was
Don't smile. This is super freaking cool, but you're not happy right now, okay? You are angry.
I was just thinking that smile really says heel.
Yeah. And she's one of those people, again, very similar to like Serena, where I'm putting her on a pedestal, where she has every right to be not all that nice if for some reason she wanted to be. But she
Yeah.
is just a gem of a human and was nothing but kind and collaborative and whipping out all sorts of good advice, but like keeping it real, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And she was on mom duty. Like she was so cool that like and like her son was there and she's like the coolest mom ever while also like being like a badass wrestler. And that's really cool as someone that was always scared that like, oh, I'll never be able to have kids because you can't do both. So seeing someone like Mickey James who didn't just kind of do it. You know, she's still doing freaking monumental groundbreaking things in wrestling
Right.
while being a kick-ass mom. So that was cool. So, yeah.
And here's the second one for you. I know there's got to be a story back there.
So this was fun. So this is well, WoW has us, you know, quite busy while we're there. But one of my absolute favorite spring breakers, Miss Sandy Shores, slash Maddie Max, was we were like, let's do tourist things. And we went and we did tourist things and we're like very travel compatible, like, you know,
Hmm.
some people great friends but like they just want to sit by the pool and you're like, no, I have a list of things I want to do.
Yeah.
Maddie and I were both like, all right, itinerary, we leave at this time, looked in
Well,
the
that
lobby, there
sounds.
she was, we
Yep,
got
that
my
sounds on
Uber and
brand.
we were gone.
That
We
sounds
did, and
very.
it's like even like we did Warner Bros. And then we also did like Universal, and it's like we did every single like we were like Santino Morella speed walking like through. Like we did every single thing that was set on our list of things to do. So,
And what exactly was this?
so this was like the Friends replica kind of cafe-ish thing. So it was really cool. So it was like their replica Central Perk.
So was it like a pop-up shop type of deal, or was it just like a
No, so
replica
it was
like
actually
tourist
like it was like
attraction?
a part of like the studio tour, which was
Okay.
super cool.
Okay.
And like they like zhuzh you through. I have another version of it where like we're sitting like kind of like back to back, like cool, so cute.
So a fan of Friends you were?
Yes. I mean,
Um
I'm not like the kind of fan that you can like quiz me on like that. Like I'm not a quiz gal, you know. So I was like, so don't follow up with that of like, do you remember what happened on episode 49 of blah blah blah. I'm not that guy.
I've watched 3 episodes of Friends in my life. So
I
you're
always put the disclaimer out there. I'm like, I'm a fan, but I'm like I watch it for fun, not to be studied and quizzed. So
I'll hit you with a pivot and that's all I got.
I love a good pivot. I have socks that say pivot.
I love that. um so as we kind of start to wrap this thing up, um what are your goals? We're still pretty early, but we're starting to get into the meat of 2025. Do you have any like tangible goals that you want to get done this year?
I feel like there are some that I'm not going to put out into the little,
To the
well, just
universe?
'cause you gotta protect yourself from all the jujus, you know? You never know. The good
Fair.
juju, the bad juju, gotta keep it all so plus if I tell everyone my secrets, then they have the upper
Fair.
hand.
That's
I
fair.
will always just say, watch out for the quiet ones working away in silence because you don't know what they're up to. And
I
that is
like that.
I think one of the things I take great pride in is that you don't know all that much about what I'm up to on a daily basis when you take a look at the interwebs. So, like
Okay, that's
I work in silence, but there will only be bigger and better versions of what is to come. So,
I like that. I definitely like that. What are you a fan of? This is the fan's view, so I love to ask this question to kind of get to know people beyond the performer. What are you a fan of outside of professional wrestling?
dogs.
My dogs and my
Really,
fiance.
like I am like a like when I see puppies, I'm like that's it. That's I'm just gonna like I like dogs more than I like people. People are all right, but like if I'm meeting a new person and they're dogged, I'm the person could be talking. I'm patting the dog. But besides dogs and wrestling, what else? What do I like? I mean, I feel like these are the things that take up majority of my time. I'm like, your girl loves Lululemon. Probably wear it way too much. But it's great activewear, guys. So not sponsored by Lulu just yet, but
No, no, they
you
can
know,
go ahead and bring it on to both of us here. That's fine.
yeah. So I'm like, all of the Align leggings, please. Thanks if you're listening, Lulu gods. Um, and I really love Sons of Anarchy and the whole Kurt Sutter world of like the Mayans right now. I'm enjoying
Yeah.
that. So
Okay.
yeah, so not all bikers, just the imaginary ones at this moment in time. But yeah,
Okay. I like that.
yeah.
Last but not least, and this is my
Wait,
favorite.
wait, I
Oh,
forgot.
go
Marvel.
ahead.
I really like Marvel stuff.
Okay. See,
Fiance got me reading some comic books so I can get
let that.
some meat behind the movies, you
There
know?
you go. Let that nerd flag fly. We're
Yeah.
not judging here. I'm
No,
a
so
DC guy, but God
you know what?
bless.
I'm okay with that, you know? Like I feel like some people are really, they're on their opposite ends and they're not everything has to be a war. It's okay. There's enough going on. There's enough going on in Marvel's world that
Look at us, America and Canada, DC and Marvel. You and I are bridging the gap right
I
here.
had a very Canadian response as well,
Oh,
you know.
and you've hit me with a couple stories, and I'm like quietly like nerding out. I love it. um, my favorite question to ask everyone, because like I said, I like to get to know people beyond just the persona in the ring. And I don't think any question really gets to that more than this one, and that is in life, in your career, in whatever it may be, what does the term success mean to you at this point in your life?
I feel like that's such a tricky one because, like, even as like a youngin, you think, oh, once I make this amount of money, it's like that must be success. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, the world only keeps getting more expensive, so I don't know if there's ever like. And then I think I don't remember who said it, but there was like this podcast I was listening to, and it was like, well, if money is your main marker of success, then the minute you reach that financial goal, it's just like emptiness because that was the only thing you were pursuing. So I think for myself, success, even though still kind of rooted a little bit financially is knowing that I can take care of my family in a way that, like, we're all working class kind of peeps, and
Yeah,
it's like there's little bits of me where I'm like, oh, if I can buy my parents a house and have a house in which I live in, where we're not attached. I was like, so two houses. Then I'm like,
fair
you
enough.
know what? That is my goal. So I'm like, that's like the financial success.
Ooh,
Now
there
I'm
we
like,
go.
there you go.
There we go.
I was like, I didn't have a flubber the whole time, and now the flubbers are coming. And I'm like, that's like the financial bit of it. But I think with wrestling, especially, if I can hang up the boots knowing that I did everything in a way that I'm proud of doing it, I think I'm good. If I leave it a little better than I got to it, then
Love that.
that's going to be a win for me. But, if I buy a few houses in the process, I won't be upset about it.
That's
But
cool too.
yeah,
That'd be
it'll
all
be all
right.
right.
That's fair. And maybe win a car from Tim Hortons. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Or like, ooh, maybe if I can, you know what? If I can fund my dream of rescuing all the pups.
I love that. I
Yeah,
love
that's
that.
another marker of it. There you go.
No, I love that answer. It's such a genuine answer. Um, and you don't disappoint. So, what do you have going on? Where can people reach you? Where can promoters get at you? Where can people get a hold of you?
Maple Leaf will be in Toronto May 10th at what was formerly known as Maple Leaf Gardens. So that's going to be a very monumental show. I'm not in that women's tournament anymore. Perhaps Aurora Teves. I mean, you can't have a show in Toronto and me not be there. So I'll be there. I will be at Super Kicked, but I think that's this weekend. So I don't know if this will be so. But you'll find me, friends.
We'll
You'll find
we'll,
me.
we'll
But
post it.
Aurora Wrestling on Instagram and Aurora Tevez on Twitter,
All
X,
right.
whatever we're
And
calling it nowadays.
what's your WoW social?
Wow is, you know what? You're asking me a good question because I can't remember if it's Karakai Wow or Wow Karakai. But yeah, go to Wow Superheroes
I'm gonna dub
and
over
look for
that.
the little ninja, and you'll find me.
A little. I love that. That's a perfect description. That's fair. Aurora, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time. Like I said, I know you're a busy lady. You've had a crazy weekend getting your butt kicked by Serena. Hopefully, that's not
Oh,
still a sore subject.
literally does a paradise lock, but was kicked. So
Well, we definitely want to thank you for your time. You have been so much fun. Hopefully, this is not a one and done. Hopefully, you'll come back on and we'll try to stump you on some more Canadian geography.
oh
What?
gosh,
What's?
I'll study. I'll study.
Well, like I said, thank you so much. Hopefully, we can have you on again. And guys, make sure to go support her. Follow her on Instagram, on Twitter, somewhere on Wow Women of Wrestling's social platform. You know, go watch her matches on YouTube. There's a lot of Aurora on YouTube, believe it or not. I've been doing some studying, so go check her out, support her. Do you have a big cartel or anything where you're selling 8x10s and stuff?
So you can always reach out on Instagram if there's like a different one that you've seen that you want. But Big Cartel is also Aurora Wrestling, so
Okay.
keeps it nice and simple.
And do you ship to the States?
Yes.
There we go, people. Support our girl. We got to have her back on, show her some love. We love you. We appreciate you, Aurora. Thank you for coming on to the Fans View podcast tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Guys, make sure, like I said, to go support Aurora. And most importantly, last but not least, call your mom.
If you haven't liked or subscribed, you're going to be joking me.